Today, we're going to talk about a haunted house book, and that is The Manor of Dreams by Christina Li. It could have been called The Manor of Broken Dreams, but I'm in the dreams. They kind of started out as dreams before they became broken. So this follows the story of two families, and there's this big old house slash manor that belonged to Vivian Yin, who was an actress of some acclaim. Her and her husband were both in the film industry. When she passes away, they have the reading of the will, and these two families come together that kind of had like a big falling out that they don't really talk about or want to talk about. And you have the younger daughters of the family who have kind of been left out in the dark on what's going on, and like the families just kind of refuse to talk about it. And so it's the daughters of Vivian Yin, but also this other woman, Elaine. And at first you don't find out how she's even like in relation to Vivian, but then you find out that she was the daughter of the one woman who was the housekeeper, and then the groundskeeper gardener was her father. And so she worked for Vivian, but also the woman who worked for Vivian was one of Vivian's like best friends at the same time too. And so they weren't really treated like help, they were treated like family. But there was some big falling out, and a bunch of like really tragic stuff happened that the families just won't talk about, and they don't tell the daughters. And so you have Elaine's daughter, and Elaine was the daughter of technically like the help. And then you have the daughter of one of Vivian's daughters. So there's Nora Deng, who's Elaine's daughter, and then you have Madeline, who is Lucille's daughter. Lucille is a lawyer, and she is very driven and kind of like a hard-hardened, unemotional, grizzled woman who's gone through some stuff in her life. So these two families come together. The will is read. They find out that the mom didn't really have as much money as they thought that maybe she had, and well, maybe you could attribute to that to her late husband. Anyways, but there were more problems than that. There was a lot of very dark secrets and issues going on, and the house seems to be haunted. And oh yeah, the only thing like the daughters have been told, well, the one daughter was told, sorry. The other daughter wasn't really told much of anything. The one daughter, so Elaine warns her daughter, she's like, don't speak to the Yin family without a lawyer present, and whatever you do not go in the garden. Don't go in the garden in the back. Why? Well, the other daughter, Madeline, finds out the hard way because the family doesn't really warn her. And then afterward, they're like, we told you not to stay out there. But they weren't like, don't go out there no matter what. There's bad stuff out there. Like, did not really say anything. And so, yeah, these families are just like withholding secrets from each other, and the daughters are like, what the F is going on? Like, the moms won't talk to their daughters about anything, and then the house starts to seem to like affect them in weird and strange ways. But then you also get the backstory of Vivian Yan, and like you see her go through her life, how she went from basically having nothing. Like, originally she was married. She had twin girls with this guy, and he ended up leaving her and abandoning her and her daughters. Later in life, she moves to the States, and she becomes an actress, and she meets this man, Richard Lowell, and he seems wonderful and great, and he's like a rising star. They fall in love, they get married. They also have another daughter, Renata, and so you have the three daughters of hers, and then you have the other people who worked for Vivian Yan and Richard, and they had two daughters as well. You had Elaine and Sophie. When they first moved in, it was two happy families, this, that, and the other. But as stuff progresses and time goes by, Richard starts to drink a lot and get into drugs, and he starts to seem like he's jealous of Vivian's career, and then maybe he wasn't treating her so well, and was kind of a POS. One of the things, too, the house they lived in, his family used to live in, and they had gotten rid of it. And he was always mad about that all these years ago. And then, so Vivian finds out when she talks to Richard's mother that the mother tried to warn him about the house. And Richard always just kind of played it off like, oh yeah, my mom thought she saw a ghost or something. And like, didn't really talk about like, there was a bunch of tragedy that happened in his family and all this stuff. And then tragedy begets their families. Actually, both of the two families, and you learn more about that as you get into it, and all that tragedy has like seeped into the walls, especially too like one of the original owners of the house was evil and angry man, and that's in there too. And there's all this effed up stuff, and like some of the people of the families that are staying there start seeing the ghost of Vivian, but there's like dirt falling out of her mouth and all this creepy stuff. And people having weird dreams, and the house is shaking, and the garden vines seem to have a mind and life of their own. Sometimes they seem to appear in the house, or they're covering a window, but then they're gone the next day, or looking out into the garden at night, and it seems like there's a bunch of flowers in bloom and whatnot, but then looking the next day and everything is dead. And so there's some weird things happening. I thought it was a great haunted house story. It's weird, it's atmospheric, there's a bit of a love story in there. It's sad, it's effed up. It's about these families that just can't effing communicate with each other. And will they ever learn how to communicate with each other and stop acting like a bunch of little kids and like, you know, sit down and be adults and hash this crap out, okay? Because you guys are acting like idiots. You read it and you're like, God, you like hate both sides of the family. You're like, you guys are just such idiots. If you would just sit down and stop being turds, you could probably figure this stuff out, okay? And like the biggest argument is the house is not going to the daughters. It's going to the daughter of who was the daughter of the housekeeper and the gardener. And the one daughter is super pissed off about this. As I said, she's a lawyer, and so she tries to find every way under the sun to like take the house back, even though this is set in writing, this was in the will, this is how it's supposed to be. But then there's so much more to the situation, and like it overwhelms them, and you know, maybe neither of them should have this house because it's really doing a number on all of them. I loved the writing. It's the first time I've read this author. I really enjoyed the story. I thought it was a great haunted house book. There's all this like weird history with the family and like going back in time too with how the one family made their fortune and all that stuff. Just a really overall great read. I liked the characters. I liked the atmosphericness of it. I liked the haunting. I felt that was good. It was creepy. It was just a nice, chilling read for the season. And if you like haunted house books, if you like family, generational trauma stories, and weird hauntings with weird stuff going on with plant life in the garden in the back, then The Manor of Dreams by Christina Li might just be for you. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.